Some of you look over the chapters of your life and you look at dark chapters, valley chapters, addiction chapters, failure chapters, and you say, I'm ashamed of those chapters. I just want you to know today that your story should not be locked up because of fear, shame, or embarrassment. Your story is one of the most powerful tools that God can use, because when God has gotten a hold of you, that's who you were, it's not who you are. Because there's something about a story that's more powerful than a lecture, that's more personal than a message, that connects in deeper ways than a book, a movie, because it's your story. It's your story. It's unique to you. It's not shared by anybody else. It is actually the most powerful tool that God will use in other people's lives. You say, well, Pastor, you don't know what I did, and you don't know how ashamed of it I am. I believe that that's part of what makes our story powerful, is the dark chapters. You have to be willing to say, my mess has become a part of my message. It's become part of the beauty of what God does. Not that I had it all together, but it's part of the beauty of what God does in my life. It's part of your story.
God does not see you like you see yourself. God does not see you like you see you. See, you see all of your limits. You see all of your regrets. You see all of your weaknesses. You see all of your struggles. God sees new purposes for your life. God sees potential for you. There is no one here that is washed up. There is no one here right now that is discarded. There is nothing that you've done. There's no shame that you carry that's so heavy. There's no sin too great that the power and grace of Jesus Christ cannot wash over and repurpose every part of your life. He can repurpose you.
And I realized, looking at the Bible, that there's a major theme, and the theme is this: the story is not over. It's not over, and that's the great thing about the gospel, because they thought they crucified him and that he was in the grave, but 3 days later, the story wasn't over. He rose from the grave. He rose and he walked out of the tomb, and people saw the Son of God. There were witnesses, and now the disciples have the Spirit of God, and they're spreading the gospel all over the world. The enemy thought it was over, but it's not over. And I realized what looked like the end in many stories out of the Bible was actually a setup for God's power and his grace and his mercy. Your worst moment, that moment that you dreaded, that moment that gave you anxiety and stress and seemed like the worst moment of your life, God is using it for his glory. God can use it for his power. It can be a story you will never forget and you will share with your family and their generations to come. Let me tell you where I used to be, but God led me out of it, and he did the impossible. Your worst moment could be a setup for God's greatest move.
Your story is one of the only things that certain people are going to listen to. There are many people in society today that will never come to a church. They have too many hang-ups, baggage, stereotypes, misconceptions, and prejudice sometimes against Christianity. They'll never walk into a church. They're not going to listen to Christian radio. But you know who they'll listen to? They'll listen to a friend, a neighbor, an acquaintance that has a story. Not a lecture, because most people don't need a lecture. What they need to hear is that God is real and how he's worked in your life. They need to hear your story infused with the gospel. The most powerful tool you have is your story. No one can argue against your story. Your testimony is like the before and after pictures, where you can describe to them, this is who I was, and this is who I'm becoming This is who God is making me. It's the living billboard to the grace of God and the goodness of God. And I want to challenge you not to hide your story, not to close your story, not to be insecure about sharing your story and even the dark chapters, because your story is a powerful reminder of the goodness and the grace of God.
And I want you to understand that the same power that's available that raised Jesus from the dead is the same power that can actually change your circumstances. The question is, are you willing to allow yourself to receive the story that Jesus is writing for you? Or are you gonna stay in the same old broken stories? I'm not done in the story of my marriage. I'm not done in the story of my business. I'm not done in the story of my relationships. I'm not done with the family member I think is done. I'm not done. Jesus has more for me because Jesus is the hope of the world. But in Christ, I can do all things through him as he strengthens my life every single day. So don't stay broken in the story that you're in right now. Don't stay the same person that you've always been, because Jesus wants so much more for you. He doesn't come criticizing, critiquing, and correcting. He comes changing and transforming. And when you trust Christ in this life, he doesn't promise you that everything's gonna be okay and that it's all gonna be easy. He promises you that in the end, everything will be okay because he is with you.
Maybe your story is in the middle of some painful paragraphs, but this too shall pass. And these paragraphs are just part of a larger story that God is writing. So our declaration is this: I will not live like I don't know the end of the story. I know how it ends, and every tear will be wiped away, and every broken thing will be made beautiful. No matter how defeated you feel or hopeless your situation might seem, your story isn't over. And the chapter that you're in is not your conclusion. God is still God. God has not lost his touch. So hold on. Hold on. This chapter you're in, it may be hard and it may be heavy, but it has not come to stay. It has come to pass. But listen to me. Even if you can't quite see God in your story, he sees you. And one day, maybe even on this side of heaven, you will look back on this chapter and you will see that God was with you, and every tear that you cried and every prayer that you whispered, he has always been in the shadows, and you can trust him with your story.